All right. Hello and welcome. It's MattyAtoms. Tonight I wanted to talk about something that actually somebody on TikTok asked me to do, my friend Lawrence Kahek. So he asked me if what my opinion on Three Eye Atlas is. And, I know it's something that people love. I know it's something that people want to hear about. So let's talk about it. But first, just as a disclaimer, I just want to say that Three Eye Atlas is only the third interstellar object that we have ever detected. So data is very limited on what these objects are. So just kind of remember that as we go along to preface it. So, as I said, we would have three confirmed interstellar visitors that we have ever seen so far: Oumuamua, Borisov, and our new friend Three Eye Atlas. So, three cosmic tourists, three mysteries, and about 3 trillion different questions. Okay? So, these things didn't just drift away from the asteroid belt, they came from other solar systems. Maybe even other galaxies, but probably locally from our galaxy. But it's possible that they even came from the heart of the Milky Way, from older parts of our galaxy, or from a solar system more similar to ours. So, just a refresher on orbital shapes here. A circle has an eclipse of 0, that's an ellipse. Less than 1 is an ellipse, a parabola is 1, and a hyperbola is over 1. Okay, so all you need to know is that anything over 1 isn't actually orbitally bound. I don't know why they call it an orbit. So, for example, Earth's ellipse is at 0.01. Halley's Comet is at 0.97, okay, so it's extremely eccentric, but just barely gravitationally bound to the Sun. Okay, but Three Eye Atlas has an eccentricity of 6. So that means that it is just flying through really fast. Okay, so that's like saying that throwing a rock at your windshield and it glancing off, that's an orbit, okay? Because that's basically what's happening here. So at that speed, it could get from the sun to Pluto in about 2 months. Voyager 1 looks at that and is just, baffled. So let's talk about Oumuamua first, because Oumuamua was the first interstellar object that we've ever discovered. Okay, so it was discovered in 2017 by Pan-STARRS in Hawaii. It had a light curve of with a 10x brightness variation, and we actually think originally people thought that it looked more like a cigar, which is kind of like what you see back here, even on NASA's website still. But now, after more research, they're starting to believe that it looked more like a pancake, and that's because of the light curve that comes off of it. And we're getting basically what happens is as a comet travels towards the sun, it starts sublimating, which means that all of the solids turn directly into gas. So you have dust and gas and stuff coming off. It forms an envelope, which is called the coma, and then that coma will eventually become a tail. Now the odd thing about Three Eye Atlas is that it has a tail that appears to be facing toward the sun, and we'll get to that in a minute here. But like I said, I want to talk about Oumuamua a little bit first. So, Oumuamua had no coma and no gas, but it was still accelerating. And there's a couple of possible causes for this. One cause is that there's outgassing from invisible hydrogen or nitrogen or something like that, right? So if nitrogen were sublimating off of a comet, you wouldn't see it in visible spectrum. Okay? It could be the sublimation of exotic volatiles, and it could also be, alien. There is a more than zero chance. But let's go through the more, reasonable explanations first. And then we'll kind of talk about Avi Loeb. We'll talk about the interstellar traveler kind of idea a little bit. But I do just want you guys to know that, like I said, we've only seen 3 different interstellar objects, okay? Keep that in mind. So we don't know much about them. We don't know if comets from other solar systems would just be way different from the comets in our solar system. So, 99.9% of what we've studied about comets has to do with comets from our own solar system, okay? And this we're talking about is a rogue comet or an exocomet, all right? So, like I said, there's a very dramatic light curve on Oumuamua, and this usually means a weird shape. And then remember, though, that as the different gases sublimate, that it is going to change the albedo of it, right? So like if you have water and carbon monoxide and things like that melting off, you're going to have an envelope, and that's going to change the albedo of it, which is basically just the brightness, right? So if the easiest way to explain albedo, if you're unfamiliar with it, is how the ice caps reflect a lot of the sun's energy, but the oceans absorb a lot, or how when you go outside on a hot day in a black shirt, you're gonna get a lot hotter, and if you wear a white shirt, it's gonna reflect a lot more of the sunlight back. Okay, so we use light in a lot of ways to determine the shapes of objects like this. And like I said, when it's sublimating a bunch of gas and dust and things like that, the light that it's giving off is going to be different. And that's why you need several readings. That's why at first they thought Oumuamua was shaped like a cigar. And then now they're saying, maybe it's more like a Dorito or a pancake kind of thing. And like I said, I'm not like a spectroscopy or light expert, but that's basically the simplified version of it. So, but if you're going to ask me if there's one that might be alien, I would say it's more likely that it's Oumuamua. I mean, we didn't really see Oumuamua until it was leaving, right? And we noticed that it was accelerating, but with no outgassing. So to me, that's absolutely weird. And like I said, there are natural explanations for it, such as, gases that don't outgas in a visible light spectrum, such as nitrogen. But, it could also be alien. Okay. But anyways, so 2I Borisov, the one that nobody really talks about, this is the second interstellar object that we ever discovered. But it's pretty normal as far as comets are concerned, so that's why it hasn't really been, in the news a whole lot and stuff. So it was discovered in 2019 by an amateur, Gennady Borisov. Sorry, I'm probably butchering the name there. It had a classic coma, a long tail, strong gas signatures of H2O, CO2, and CN. So it behaved like any old comet except for its speed and its origin, and being that it was interstellar and going a lot faster than comets that we see. So now let's get to 3I Atlas, which, well, sorry, that's Oumuamua behind me, but we're going to get to 3I Atlas now, and I'll open up Universe Sandbox in a little bit if you're watching this on YouTube. I believe that, I know for sure they have a simulation in there of Oumuamua, but we'll check and see if they have one of 3I Atlas too. I think they did on the last update, actually, so we should be able to see its trajectory going through. Otherwise, I'll check it out on, there's some other websites that are tracking where it's at. So, 3I Atlas was first detected just in July of this year, 2025, by the Atlas survey. So 3I, third interstellar, Atlas was the survey that found it. Its perihelion, or the closest that we believe it's going to come to Earth, is about 1.36 AU. So an AU is the distance of the Sun to the Earth. Okay, it's an astronomical unit if you're unfamiliar. Like I said, its eccentricity is at about 6, which means it's just on a hyperbolic rocket ride. It's not orbitally bound to the sun at all. Its speed is about 26 kilometers per second inbound, and it's going to, I think it's at about 60 right now, and it's going to reach about 100 kilometers per second at its perihelion. So it is going insanely fast. Now, the reason we think it's going so fast is because, like I said, it came from another solar system. It was probably ejected off of something in something cataclysmic. And then it's been traveling through interstellar space for a very long time. Who knows where it came from? Now, an interesting thing that I heard today is that we were able to trace back the direction that we think 3I Atlas came from, and it looks like it came from Sagittarius, that it came from the same area that the WOW signal came from, essentially. So if you know what the WOW signal is, it's back in the 70s. We think we may have received a radio signal from outer space because it was just, but it was only for like 75 seconds, and then it disappeared, and we were never able to find it again. But it was called the WOW signal because the person who found this radio wave, just simply wrote WOW on the paper, right? And they really thought that it was a techno signature. And when we're tracing back where 3I Atlas comes from, surprise, surprise, it does seem to be coming from that same direction, interestingly enough, if you want to go the interstellar probe route more. But like I said, it does have a coma and a dust tail, but the coma shows a sunward extension pointing towards the sun. Now, some people have been calling this an anti-tail or but we've never seen this before in a comet. Now, again, like I said, there are natural explanations for this. The most reasonable one being that actually the angle that we're looking at it, we're just seeing it wrong, and that it's not actually facing the sun, but we're just, basically seeing a optical illusion. But we'll be able to rule that out as we get to see it from different angles. Right now, it's just passing behind the sun, so we're not going to see it for about 2 months. So it's kind of a good pause, and then we're going to get a lot more data. We can't get anything from ground-based telescopes right now, but we're going to get a lot more data from our Mars-based telescopes and our James Webb and other telescopes that we have orbiting out there. So we should have a lot more by like December. We should have really a lot more data on 3i Atlas to make a more complete and reasonable explanation. But like I said, at Oumuamua, we still really don't know what happened. We know that we saw it only when it was leaving, it was accelerating, and it wasn't outgassing. And so to not put extraterrestrials at least on the table as a more than zero possibility, I think is just as unreasonable as just being extreme and saying, oh my God, it's aliens, because it's probably not. I always want to look at the natural explanations first, but hey, maybe it is. So anyways, though, continuing on with 3i Atlas, another possibility that we could have a coma facing the sun could be that they're large, heavy dust grains, or that we just have that there's like a jet venting in the front of it. But if that was the case, then you would think you would see deceleration from it as well. And we're not seeing deceleration, so I don't think it's jet outgassing from the front of it. And like I said, it is weird. We've never seen a coma in the front of a comet facing the sun, because generally the solar winds are going to push and blow all that dust and gas away, okay? So, if that makes sense for you. So at this speed, so let me open up, I'm going to get Universe Sandbox here going so I can get a nice visual for you guys. All right, here we go. I said I'm pretty sure they put in a 3i Atlas simulation in here. So this way you can get a nice visual of where it's at. Right now it's just passing behind the sun from our perspective. So like I said, it's kind of in the halo of the sun right now, and then we're not going to be able to see it for a while. So alright, let's look at these. Open. There we go. Interstellar Comet 3i Atlas. So I'm just going to pause it. So this is what they have here in Universe Sandbox. And thank you, the Universe Sandbox team, by the way, for making this. On July 1st, 2025, astronomers detected the comet 3i Atlas, the third ever visitor to our solar system. It'll make its closest approach to the sun on October 30th. Isn't that spooky? Around 1.4 AU away, slightly closer than Mars, before slingshotting out of the solar system. So they do have a built-in Oumuamua simulation too. We'll look at that in a second. That shot closer to the sun than Mercury at about 0.255 AU. And 2I Borisov was much further away, only getting as close as 2 AU. Astronomers estimate that tens of thousands of interstellar asteroids and comets pass through the solar system each day, but most are small. And that's another important point to note, is that 3I means it's the third interstellar object that we've ever detected. That does not mean, we've had tons of them, I'm sure. Okay, so this is its trajectory. Let's just kind of give it a watch. I'm gonna pause it at about where it's at right now. Okay, so this is like July. Oh yeah, it actually has the date down here. August, September. See, and as we start getting into October here, what's today's date? The 7th? Boop. So right now, it's just starting to kind of cross over where we're not going to be able to see it because the sun is in the way. And then it's going to slingshot a little bit closer than Mars. Than Mars's orbit, I should say. And then, like I said, around this point here, so this is November, then we should really be able to get those ground-based telescope views again on it and get a lot more data. And I'll definitely do a follow-up on this because I know this is something that people are interested in. I'm interested in it. I don't want to talk about it right away because it's a complicated subject, and the truth is that we really just don't know. We don't. If we did know, there wouldn't be such a discussion about it, right? And so that's all. But just be careful when you see articles that say like, "Oh, Harvard physicists say that Three Eye Atlas is alien," because that's a very big misnomer. Okay, Avi Loeb, the third guy on the paper, said, "Let's not rule out aliens." Okay, he didn't say that it was aliens. All right. So now let's check out Oumuamua real quick. So this was Oumuamua as it came by in 2017. And if you're on TikTok, you're not going to be able to see this, so you'll have to come over to the big red button. So Oumuamua slingshotted through very quick, and I think we really only got a glimpse of it, like right about here. On October 19th, 2017, astronomers in Hawaii observed an asteroid soaring past Earth. At first, the object itself didn't appear to be unique, but after analyzing its trajectory, astronomers noted that one of its characteristics made it the first of its kind where it came from. They called it Oumuamua, meaning a messenger arriving from afar. And after slingshotting around the sun, it's now... And I believe I actually read something today saying that they're trying to do like a catch-up mission to launch something to catch up to Oumuamua, but good luck with that. So, flew through very, very fast, and really at a nice, perfect trajectory that you would want to take if you were trying to get a snapshot of a few different planets in our solar system loop and get out. Now, like I said, I'm not saying that it was alien, they're extraterrestrial, but if we're going to launch a probe into another system, this is a similar trajectory that we would want to take, right? You would want to kind of get near as many of the different planets that you think may host life as possible so that you can get a reading here, you get a reading here, you get a reading here, and you can get several readings on the different planets in the system, right? Now, like I said, Oumuamua could have been accelerating just from outgassing that we didn't see, but I don't think so. So let me know what you guys think about that. I don't know why I can't see the chat right now. I think it's actually an issue with YouTube. I don't know. But if you're in the chat, I'm trying to take a look, but I'm having an issue seeing it. So, but yeah, that's about it today. I wanted to cut this one a little bit shorter today because last week I went like an hour and 20 minutes because I kind of messed up the beginning a little bit. So, if you're just joining in, rewind and check all of that out. Like I said, this is a really awesome little simulation. There are a couple different websites here that I'll share with you before I get going. Let me just switch up my view here and close out a Universe Sandbox. This is Avi Loeb, by the way. So, I love this guy, actually. He kind of gets a name made for him that he's just like the alien guy or whatever, but really, he's a good scientist, I think, and he just likes to put on the table, maybe it might be aliens, okay? But when you say that, people kind of want to make you the alien guy or whatever. That's why he gets famous. And like I said, the funny thing is he's actually the third author on this paper, but because he's the most famous, like I said, but be careful when you see articles from like, Fox or CNN or whatever, where it's just like, oh yeah, Harvard professors say that aliens are coming from outer space. It's like, no, they really didn't read between the line, and that's a clear case of like probably someone who doesn't understand science very much, who's just a journalist and an English major sharing it because they thought it sounded cool and it would make a good headline, right? So, not that anyone would ever do that, right? Let's see, live tracking of 3i Atlas. I just wanted to at least find this for you. So there are a couple different websites like this. But like I said, this one is altascomet.com. You can see it up here. If you're on YouTube, if you're on TikTok, you can't see it. Sorry, don't know what to tell you. So yeah, we actually have a tracker here. Good, I like this one because the other one I was looking at was like a whole like solar system map, and it's a bit confusing because I'm like, why do I care? Right now, I don't care where it is in comparison to other stars in the galaxy and stuff. Um, but yeah, so can we make this full screen? I hate ads. Let's see. All right, so this is where 3i Atlas is right now. This is where Earth is right now. And like I said, it's coming this way. So the brightness and like the halo of the sun, we already really can't see it anymore from our ground-based telescopes. But thankfully, we are very advanced people, and we have telescopes on Mars. We have satellites out there flying around, like the James Webb Space Telescope. So, just because we can't view it from Earth, we're going to be using a lot of our Mars-based telescopes as soon as it comes back in the view of Mars. So, that's the great thing as we continue to advance as a species. Get more telescopes and more measurement devices in different parts of the solar system, then we'll be able to really measure these things with better intensity. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. Do you think that interstellar objects and interstellar comets are just far different from ours? I mean, we know that they probably are, at least some of them, right? Different star systems absolutely are probably built different than us, have different isotopes of elements, different probably balances. Some solar systems probably have a lot less liquid water than us, or a lot less water in general. Some solar systems probably have more of one element than another. You know what I'm saying? So, and then, like I said, who knows? Maybe it came from the primordial center of our galaxy that we know nothing about, and that would just explain all these weird oddities that it's just stuff that we don't even see in our solar system, so we have no experience with, right? So that's the more balanced, nuanced, non-alien take. But there's plenty of reason to just be like, you know what, like this stuff is weird and we can't explain it, so we can't rule aliens out. Now, like I said, the reason why this is so fun, we don't actually know what it is. And anyone who tells you otherwise, they're not telling you the truth. So, anyways, this has been MattyAtoms. I'm going to be live every Tuesday at 8 p.m. doing, a little bit of space news. We'll keep talking about these interstellar objects, and I usually like to do some Universe Sandbox simulations or something like that. But like I said, this is a very complex topic. I've been researching it all day, so I really didn't even think about what I was going to do for simulations. We're going to continue along with this as we continue to get more news with it, so make sure to check in. Make sure to check out the Pluto video that I just dropped. It was taken from last week's live, but I edited it, threw in a bunch of really nice, awesome images of Pluto that me, my brother, and my other moderator found. So I really hope that you enjoy that. Let me know what you think about the editing and the music in the background. I'm working on, really making the transitions nice for you, not just using stock footage, right? So I'm always downloading unique images from different space agencies and things like that for you guys. So I hope you really enjoy that. I hope that you learned a lot today. And like I said, drop your opinions down below, start the discussion, because we really don't know. So I'm interested in what you think. It'll really help me decide how I kind of move forward in covering this in the future. So thank you to everybody for joining. Like I said, if you're on TikTok, sorry that you can't see my screen share. I only do that for YouTube. I'm just playing around now with streaming on going live basically on two different services at once. So, I'll probably combine it all together and just do it all from my computer eventually at one day, but this way I get two different camera angles for when I edit later and all that fun jazz. So, I said thank you everybody for hanging out with me. Come hang out with me next Tuesday. Let's talk more about aliens, outer space, planets, moons, and whatever else interests you. Let me